She's an award-winning writer, a hunting guide, archery and rifle instructor, keynote speaker, and all-around outdoors woman who encourages you to get outside, hunt, fish, shoot, and savor all that life has to offer. And now, here's your host, Mia Anstine.
Well, hey, hi, hello, you all. Welcome to the Mac Outdoors podcast. I'm so happy that you're here listening today. I, again, have another special guest, and today I'm particularly excited because my guest is Joella Bates, and she is somebody that I met years ago at SHOT Show and in like a professional outdoor media breakfast or something like that. But I've followed her for a while because, as some of you know, I love archery and I love teaching archery, but I'm not a competitor. I'm more of a mentor, and she is a world-renowned shooter and hunter, and I'm so excited to share her story with you. As we're going on the show today, we are going to share some of her important links, and I will have those in the show notes or on the website, so you can find those below the podcast audio, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can find them below the video there. And so, without further ado, let's hear from WSI, and then we'll bring Joella on.
This summer, whether at the range or in the field, WSI Sports Hypertech Bamboo Tanks, tees, and leggings will have you covered. Visit WSISports.com to support the show and use the affiliate code MACO10 for 10% off your purchase. All products are proudly made in the USA. WSI is bringing back pride in America-made clothing. Again, that code is MACO10 for 10% off your order at WSISports.com.
Hey, Joella, I'm so happy to be talking to you, and I was so excited. I actually had blocked some time off for Thanksgiving prep and stuff like that, and then I didn't block today off, and lo and behold, you scheduled a meeting, and I was like, oh my gosh, I am so excited because I've been following you on your social media journey for years, but particularly in the past couple weeks, and I was really excited about your trip to Argentina, but I want to hear all about that. But first, would you introduce yourself to my listeners and viewers so that they can get a glimpse of who you are?
I'll be glad to, Mia. And thank you so much for inviting me to be here. I've been an outdoors gal my entire life. My dad was 52 when I was born, and he was a big outdoorsman. So I tagged along. From the time I was in diapers, he had me in the boat fishing with him. And by the time I was 6, I was his tag-along hunting partner. And I just loved everything about the outdoors. And back in those days, there weren't near as many deer as there are now. And I hunted with him for 4 years before I ever saw the first deer. So when I got my first deer when I was a freshman in high school, and just absolutely fell in love with deer hunting and squirrel hunting and whatever else that I could do with my dad. And my very best memories from childhood are those associated with hunting and fishing and playing sports with my siblings and my mom and dad.
Yeah, and so when you started out hunting, were you were archery hunting then, or were you hunting with a rifle?
No, I was hunting with a rifle. I actually, the very first thing I shot when as a hunter was a squirrel with a shotgun. Now, I've been hunting, tagging along with Dad for years, and saw him shoot quail and rabbits and squirrels. But finally, I begged enough that he let me shoot a squirrel. I missed 11 times.
And that's something people need to know. Misses happen. Like,
God, with a shotgun, 11 times. That's a lot. And I'm moving around here. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
So the squirrel was way up in the top of a poplar tree, and Dad just handed me the gun with one shell in it. And He didn't tell me how to aim. He didn't tell me how to do it at all until I had gotten down to the last couple of, there we go, the last couple of shells in his pocket. And then he started giving me some instruction. And finally, he said, "This is it. Either you do it now or we go home without that squirrel because we have no more ammo." The squirrel fell. I shot it.
Put a little pressure
So,
on you.
just a little bit. I think that's one of the reasons that I have such a passion for teaching others is that it takes good instruction to help a newbie start down a path of success.
Yeah.
You can, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing to fail. I'm not saying that at all because I try new things all the time, and in the beginning, I'm not successful at it. But with effort, with following instructions, with lots of practice, you can get really good.
Yeah.
So I went from that first mishap and my first squirrel to very quickly swapped over to a 22 rifle and got really good with the 22 rifle. And then when I was a freshman in high school, I took my first deer on a juvenile hunt. And then every year I would get a buck and I'd go back to school after opening day and the boys would all want to see the pictures, but we didn't have instant pictures then. I just have to tell them all about it until we got pictures. But I became a very successful deer hunter. Not immediately. It was 4 years before I saw a deer, but then every year I'd get me a deer. And I learned to shoot well enough when I went to college. I went to a turkey shoot, and some of the guys that I played basketball with invited me to go with them. And one of the baseball players from my hometown paid for me to shoot at a turkey shoot. And when they called my name, I was shocked because I had no intentions of competing. I'd never competed with a gun. And the coach of the UT Martin rifle team told me what I needed to do to score on the target, and it was a grid target. And back in those days, I had incredible vision, and I could see the lines. And if you shot the intersection of the lines, you got all four numbers. So I shot 2 perfect rounds, took home 2 turkeys, and got an invitation to try out for the rifle team. And in 10 days, I was top shooter on the college rifle team.
Oh, wow.
So, Dad, after he let me learn about shooting a shotgun the hard way, he did provide me some really good instruction on rifle shooting. And he would give me 1 cartridge. He wouldn't give me a whole box. He'd give me 1. And if I wanted to have meat, I had to make that count.
Yeah.
And since I do seminars, and my seminar is make the shot count.
Mm-hmm.
And I focus on tips and techniques that will help you be successful in making that shot count.
Yeah. And so I am imagining a lot of what you do and a lot of people who are world-class shooters. I mean, a lot of it is mindset. And that's something you're sharing with people. I need to go to one of your seminars one of these days just to see what you are teaching. I would love to. I would love to be at one. But when you're teaching, I want to back up a minute before we talk about teaching and learning, because I want to talk to the listeners first. I keep saying that you're a world-class shooter, and for those of you who are just listening to audio, Joella has a bunch of medals or ribbons around her neck. I can kind of see the lanyard there. And I want you to tell us, you just got back from, is it Argentina? Is that correct?
Yes.
Tell us about Argentina and tell us about what was going on there and your journey and stuff like that.
Well, back, I guess in May, I got an invitation from USA Archery to participate in the U.S. team for the Pan American Field Championships. Now, the significance of this is the first Pan American Field Championship in 41 years.
Oh, wow.
I used to do them, and then I don't know what the history is there, but this was the first in 41 years.
Wow.
So I got an invitation, and they sent me another invitation soon afterwards and said, if you know others that would make good team members, please share this information. So I started sharing the information with others that had been on international teams with me and other people that I competed in archery with. And my co-workers here at the Archery School of the Rockies and other people that frequent here. So the Argentina tournament included Olympic recurve, compound archery, bare bow archery. That's a recurve bow that can have a rest and they can string walk. And then traditional archery, which is a recurve or a longbow that uses modern arrows. So they can use aluminums or carbon arrows. But they have to have a single knocking, a single placement of their fingers on the string touching the knocking point. Can't walk the string like a bare bow can. And then longbow. And I shoot longbow and wood arrows. It's the most primitive of the disciplines. So I have just a stick and a string and wood arrows to go along with it. And in May, we got the invitation, and I soon decided that this was something I wanted to do. And Karen Bach, the founder of the Archery School of the Rockies, is a very talented coach, archery coach. And she has been coaching me since I've been in Colorado Springs. Now, I've had Dan Hart from Huntsville, Alabama, as an archery coach working with me for the last 30 years. But Dan's in Alabama and Karen's here in Colorado Springs. So I've worked with both of them in preparation for going to Argentina. And people might say, well, you're a coach. Why do you need a coach?
That was the question I was going to ask you, because I have people ask me that with coaching and with going on guided hunts. So, like, you're a guide. Why would you hire a guide? So let us know.
So, as a coach, I know that I can watch a person shoot and I can pick out things that if they tweaked, if they did it differently, they could be more consistent. I can pick that out. I know what to look for. And as a competitor, I've been doing it for a long, long time. I've been shooting competitive archery for 32 years. But I know what I think I'm doing. And unless I watch the video and see what I'm actually doing, I don't know exactly what I'm doing unless somebody else tells me.
Mm-hmm.
And as a coach myself, when another coach observes something and they tell me, then that increases my awareness and I can focus on correcting whatever it was that I was doing that was making me inconsistent.
Right. And I kind of attribute it to, I just, what popped in my mind was picking the speck out of your own eye before you look at someone else. But also it's kind of like proofreading. If I write my article and I read it, it looks all good. I don't even notice that I have spelling errors or punctuation missing, and words sometimes are missing. But if someone else reads it, they can see it. So that's kind of how I picture, if you get someone else to watch you, they can see things that you're not going to notice on yourself.
And if I don't have another coach around me, I will oftentimes hand my cell phone to someone and ask them to video me.
Mm-hmm.
And even as recently as when I was in Argentina, going into the gold medal round, we didn't have a target on the warm up butts, but I got Coach D. Falk, who was the team leader for our team in Argentina. I asked Coach D if he would video a couple of shots for me. So Coach D videoed 2 shots from the back, 2 from the side, and 2 at an angle looking toward me. And we reviewed the video. And I saw exactly why my arrows were going a little bit left. And I fixed it. And I go out and I shot incredibly well in the gold medal match and beat my opponent, I think 52-27 or 29. Anyway, a lot.
A lot.
I only had to hit the target one time on my 4th target to already capture the win, which,
Wow.
if I had gone in and not been aware that I wasn't finishing my shot as strongly as I needed to, then the outcome could have been different.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's use the resources you've got to the best of your ability. And I think another set of eyes makes a world of difference.
Yeah, and it sounds like you are very open to, I won't call it criticism, but coaching. You're very open to being coached, even though you are a coach. And I really think that is a commendable quality, because we all should be open to, hearing advice or feedback, and especially
Right.
to become a world champion. How many medals do you have?
Say that again.
How many medals do you have?
Well, I have won 13 world championships.
Wow.
And in Argentina, I had an opportunity to win 2 medals, and I won 2 gold medals. I won, actually, Joella Bates, the top male longbow shooter for the U.S., who also won 2 gold medals. We both cleaned the longbow division. He and I were paired together to be the U.S. longbow team, and we won the first medal of the competition on the 3rd day of the competition, the day of the team competition. We were the very first shooters up, and we competed against the Argentinian team, and we won by a landslide.
No mercy. No mercy.
No mercy. Well, we are both very experienced competitors, and actually, several years ago, Shiloh and I shot a competition together. And when we finished the day, I told him, I said, if you're open to it, I would like to work with you about a few things that I saw you doing that I think I can help you do better. And he said, Joella, by all means. Now, Shiloh and I both have hunted Cape buffalo in Africa
I was
with a
going to
bow.
ask about this too. Tell us about that.
Shiloh was very open to hearing what I had to say, and I watch him shoot today and know that, and he has told me that that day was a life changer for him, because it opened his eyes to some things that he could do differently that would help him be more consistent. And he's taken what I taught him and gone and gotten additional coaching training. And Shiloh is a beast. He is a dominant force in longbow. And you put the 2 of us together, and we walloped the Argentinian team.
That's amazing. It's
and
so
then
cool.
The second medal I won the last day of the competition, and it was in the individual competition. And the longbow men went first, and then the longbow women and I took on one of the other American longbow shooters, and we sparred for the gold medal, and I came out on top.
You came out ahead.
And you know, Chris Johnston is a very talented longbow shooter. She's got a lot of stuff going on. Her mom is critically ill, and Chris has 2 young kids. So I'm pretty confident that I put in a whole lot more preparation going to Argentina than Chris was able to with her schedule. And
what do you think are some of the things?
I've worked so hard.
Yeah, and I know the hard work you've done, and I mean, I think when I think of something like that, as I said, I'm not a competitor, but I would think hard work leads to success. But what do you think are some of the biggest obstacles for people that kind of keep them from excelling as much as you have? Is it the time and preparation, or what do you see when you're helping people?
Well, I see people have to have a big enough why to be willing to put the time and dedication into achieving a goal. And I am very goal oriented. I set goals, I put together a plan, and I work it. I have many motivational and sports psychology authors that I follow and that I study. I have read Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and it was a life changer for me back in 1998 when I had my most profitable year as a professional archer. I won $42,000 that year and was on the podium all but 2 events all year long. And I attribute a lot of my success to the following the principles of Stephen Covey. Lanny Basham is an incredible mental management trainer, and Lanny Basham has written all the mental management program for USA Archery. Lanny and I were competitive rifle shooters at the same time. He was an Olympian at the time that I was a collegiate shooter, and just in awe when I got to meet him. Well, then years later, when I meet him after he's working with Matthews Archery doing mental management, Lanny autographed his book and gave it to me, and I've studied it and I've read it over and over and over, and it's a life changer for me. In his book, he says that we are limited by our attitude and our belief. You've got to believe you can do it, and you've got to be willing to make changes in order to accomplish whatever it is. So I do Lanny Basham's directive affirmation, and I've used his directive affirmations to change habits that I had that were holding me back. After initially doing it, I lost 78 pounds. When I came back from Africa after taking the Big 5, I realized that being a big girl and carrying around so much weight and was not healthy for me, and that it was a limiting factor, and I did something about it. And back when COVID hit, I ended up having an issue develop that kept me from shooting for 2 years. My right hand started locking up on me. I'm shooting with fingers on I was shooting a recurve at the time, and I was shooting with fingers, and my fingers would lock, and I couldn't get them to open to let go of the string.
Oh, wow.
And it went from that to I lost all my grip strength in my hands. I went 7 months without being able to drive a vehicle.
Wow. What caused that?
I'm not a quitter. Huh?
What caused that?
During COVID, we don't get to go to the doctor unless it's a life-threatening thing. So I couldn't get any medical attention. It wasn't until October of that year that I actually went to the doctor, and we initially thought that it was going to be carpal tunnel, but it wasn't. The doctor evaluated me, and a neurologist said that I had compression syndrome, that C4, 5, and 6 were compressing on the nerves, and that was impacting the blood flow and innervation to my hands, and
is
that
in your
was
neck?
causing the problem. Yeah, in your neck.
And I'm specifically asking you because I actually have stuff, and I know it's when I have neck like inflammation in my body, but when my neck is out, my hand goes numb.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I had to be able to do something during that time, and I lost a lot of weight. I couldn't do things with my hands that I normally would that would require gripping, but I started sewing, and I could push fabric. I got my sister to help me cut, and I could push fabric, and I made 3,500 face masks. I didn't sit on my tail and do nothing. I worked, but I couldn't do what I really loved doing. And so I go to the doctor. They diagnosed me with compression syndrome, and he puts me on medicine that makes me in a stupor. And I couldn't even roll over in bed without feeling like I was on a drunk, and I don't drink. And I took the medicine for a month and a half, and I decided, you know what? If this is how life's going to be, I'm going to do it without medicine. I'll learn to deal with the pain. I'll figure something else out. So I just refused to take the medicine, and I still struggled with no grip strength. I couldn't even open a Coke bottle. And I go through the summer into the next fall, and in the fall of 21, right before Thanksgiving, I'm babysitting for a friend, and she had given me a whole container of coconut bonbons. Oh, they were so good, and I ate a bunch of them. And my hand locked, and I couldn't open my right hand. For an hour and 10 minutes, I could not open my right hand. I tried prying my hand open, and I couldn't get it open. And I thought, this is crazy. Mm-hmm. I've got to do something. And I thought, okay, the only thing I've been doing different is I had a whole gob of sugar. I said, so I'm going to eliminate sugar. Guess what?
Yeah.
I was on the right track.
Yeah.
And it wasn't long after that, I quit eating anything with sugar, anything with processed sugar. I would have fruit, but no processed sugar. And I decided to go to my chiropractic sports physician and see if he could help me. And he referred me to a holistic nutrition specialist. And she did a bunch of testing and looked for food sensitivities mm-hmm. and environmental sensitivities. And she told me to eliminate these certain things, and I started taking holistic supplements and really got my body in good condition, and I quit having problems.
Isn't it amazing? I'm sitting here in awe. This is not at all where I figured your and I conversation would go.
It's not, but I know this is something we need to share.
It is. And during COVID, for years, even before I had my daughter, I've had different aches in my body, like burning or like growing pains in my lower extremities. And during COVID, it took over my whole body. And so I'd have these growing pains throughout my body. And what I ended up doing was like you did. I noticed I had ice cream or cake. I had something, and it seized my body up. And that's why I was telling you I get inflammation from the sugar and processed foods. And for me, we did the elimination diet, and dairy is something that I never knew affected me. And it I can feel it if I have dairy, and it's something that I recommend to people I come across all the time. If you can go see a functional or holistic nutritionist to help you, the food feeds your body, and it is
Yes.
amazing for me. A lot of my friends and family, they're like, "Are you still eating that way?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, to live a pain-free life is wonderful." It's a challenge
You
sometimes. Don't
got it.
get me wrong. I mean, Thanksgiving's
Oh,
coming
yeah.
up, and I know I'm probably going to get some pain coming because I'll want a pie or something. But at least I know where it comes from now. And I was like you. The only relief for my pain was going to sleep, and then
Uh-huh.
I'd wake up and I would feel better. Well, during that time where we were shut down so much, it got to where I would go to sleep and I'd wake up and I was still in pain. And so
Yeah.
last year in September of 2022, for my birthday present to myself, I took myself to that functional medicine doctor, and it's amazing. The mental stuff and
Yes.
relaxation for me, because
Yes.
I'm a go
Yes.
getter in a different way than you are. But you're driven, you have to like
Yes.
reset and help your own body. So I'm really pleased to see that you found that too, because it's just been amazing for me in my life.
It's so crazy. Back in the spring, I've been out here in Colorado for most of the last year. And in the spring, Karen and I had found some ginger cookies, and she loved the ginger cookies and she'd share one with me. And I started eating those ginger cookies more often than I needed to.
Mhm.
And then I go home, and this is before I found out about the Argentina trip. I go home and I had a gallbladder attack. And I ended up in the hospital, and they're wanting to take out my gallbladder. And I'd had this happen to me right before I left to go to France in 2017. And I'd done a gallbladder cleanse and was able to eliminate the problem and not have to have surgery. Well, I did the same thing. And I decided in May, even before I decided to go to Argentina, that, you know what? I cannot cheat,
Mhm.
because cheating is cheating me. It's really cheating me. The thing that I think is a treat is really destructive. I started looking at what the nutrition specialist had told me and started religiously following what she said do. And the weight starts coming off, and I start feeling so much better. And then I have Argentina the opportunity come along, and I set myself on a course to be 100% cheat free and to do everything in my power to come home with the gold medal. Not just go to Argentina to compete. I I committed to doing whatever I thought it was going to take to be ready to win the gold.
Yeah, and you brought home
And
two.
and I did. I did. And I get home after winning, and the whole time I'm in Argentina, excuse me, my friends are indulging in all the luxurious stuff, and I'm eating fabulous beef meals and really enjoying the food. But I did not have sugar, and I did not have gluten. I found out gluten is a problem for me. And I found out legumes are. I had a horrible sensitivity to peanuts and got really sick. And I thought peanut butter was fine for me, but no, it wasn't. It turned out to be a no-no. And so I stick to my diet totally. I win the gold medal. The next morning, this dish that everybody was bragging about, I decide, okay, I'm going to indulge one time. I got so sick. And I get home, and there's a competition last Saturday. The previous month's competition, I competed with my longbow and wood arrows against the women, the Masters women in barebow. And they are shooting recurve bows that are faster. They can string walk. They've got an arrow rest. So I know I'm at a disadvantage. But not only did I beat all the women masters, I beat all the women barebow shooters and all the men barebow shooters with my longbow. I was ready for Argentina. And I come back from Argentina after that one cheat day. And on Saturday, I was sick.
Mm-hmm.
Inflammation.
Yeah.
And I had another gallbladder attack.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, you know what? Cheating ain't worth it.
Yeah, it's not any fun.
No. So I'm back in training mode again.
Yeah, what's next on the list for you?
Mode. What? Next on the list? Well, I don't know if I'm going to do it yet or not, but there's the Lancaster Classic, and there's a competition there that the longbow shooters come in and they shoot as outlaws against other competitors, and they have their own little internal competition, and they're begging me to come and be an outlaw. So I don't know if I will or not. That's yet to be said, but I'm planning on shooting Vegas this year. I've never done it. Well, I take that back. I did it in 1998.
Okay.
But I've not done it since. And I'm thinking that I'll probably shoot Vegas. I'm going to Africa in April and bow hunt again. So I'll be pulling the compound out and preparing to shoot heavier weight. But I'm still going to take my longbow to Africa.
Cool. Will you tell the listeners a little bit about what I was so impressed with was your trip to Africa when you were feeling all great that one time and you told us stories about your trip down there and Cape Buffalo, and can you tell the listeners a little bit about your hunting adventures and the big stuff?
Okay, absolutely. In 2001, I had gotten challenged by another lady pro compound shooter that she had gone to Africa and had tried to take a Cape Buffalo with a bow, and she had been unsuccessful. And she told me, she said, "Joe, I hear that there's an African lady that's saying she's going to be the first." And she said, "If anybody can do it, you can do it." And I'm like, I don't know why you would think that I would be going to Africa. And she said, I heard you were going to Africa and you're going to hunt Cape Buffalo. So I thought about it and I talked to one of my sponsors and I said, what do you think? Should I do this? And he said, you need to go pray about it and God will give you the answer. Well, girl, he opened the doors wide open for me. Wide open. I go home after the SHOT Show, after the ATA show, thinking, okay, I wonder if I can make this happen. And I find out that a young man that used to come and play basketball in my backyard had opened up a gym in my hometown. And I became a charter member of the gym and started working out. And I was going through a divorce, and I met with the attorney, got a restraining order, and eliminated that problem. And I called Matthews. I was shooting for Matthews at the time. I called Matthews and I talked to Joel, and Joel said, I'll make you a bow that you can shoot, that you can get. I needed 80 foot-pounds of kinetic energy. Mm-hmm. And he said, I'll make you a bow. And then I go to outdoor show, and I had a dart system at the time, a mobile dart system, and I had the dart system there and was letting people shoot, and I was doing seminars, and I hear an African accent in the background while I'm doing a shooting demo. And afterwards, the guy hung around, and I told him, I said, where are you from? And he said, I'm from South Africa. I said, what do you do? What are you doing here? And he said, well, I'm visiting clients. And I said, okay, so what did your clients hunt, or have they been? And he said, yeah, the man hunted Cape buffalo and the woman hunted, his wife hunted impala. And I said, how much poundage do you have to shoot to hunt Cape buffalo? And he said, oh, probably 80, 85 pounds. You got to have 80 foot-pounds of kinetic energy. And he said, why? And I said, well, I'm just curious. I'm kind of thinking about it. And he said, well, if you're thinking about it, you need to meet my little brother. And I told him, I said, well, I'm not going to Africa to meet your little brother. And he said, well, my little brother is at the Harrisburg Sports Show. Mia, I had a ticket in my purse. I was leaving Monday morning to go to Harrisburg to work at the sports show. So I get to Harrisburg on Monday morning, and I go to work for the Susan Himbo that owned Ravenware of Canada. And I told her, I said, I just met this couple in Mississippi, and he said I need to meet his little brother, that if I want to hunt Cape buffalo, I need to talk to him. And she said, well, I've got somebody I want you to meet. She comes back 30 minutes later with a brochure, and it's the little brother.
So that's when you know stuff is meant to be. I mean,
I absolutely know that God was behind opening the doors and providing opportunity. And I end up shooting for him. He's amazed. I'm busting lifesavers at 20 yards. And he told me, he said, I just need to know why you want to do it. And I said, well, no woman's ever done it before, and I think I can. And he said, well, I got to see you shoot, and you got to prove it to me. And after he saw me shoot, he squealed, and I squealed, and he hugged me, and he said, we're going to do this. And we did. And the lady that had told me that she had heard I was going to do it, and I had her blessing. I called her to tell her that I had my bow. I was going in July, and I was gonna do this. And she told me, she said, well, I'm going in May. Oh. And I said, but you told me that I had your blessing. And she said, well, I decided that I'm going to do it.
She's going to do it
and
first.
She had told me the date that she was going. I called him and I said, Jakes, the lady that told me, that got me started on this, has now told me that she's going in May and she's going to do it. And I said, man, I did not start this to be the second. Can you get me there sooner? And he called me back in just a little bit and he said, can you be here May the 1st? I said, heck yeah, let's do it. And he said, but you've got to be able to shoot that bow. And a few days later, the bow comes in. I'm shooting it. I shot it 50 shots the first day. And it was at 80 pounds. So I scheduled a hunt in Texas to hunt nilgai because I wanted to hunt with the heavy poundage before I went to Africa. So the first week in April, I go to Texas. I end up shooting a nilgai at 40 yards frontal. And lo and behold, when I get to Africa, I end up shooting my Cape buffalo on the 10th day, on May the 10th, frontal at 27 yards. I thought it was actually meters. My rangefinder had gotten switched to meters. But I was shooting using the rangefinder to hit distance, check distance with, so it didn't matter. But I shot that Cape buffalo at 27 meters, frontal, right through the heart, and he went 140 yards and went down. Then I ended up shooting him 3 more times. That first shot went in about 17 inches. It went through the heart, but he was still alive. They're just incredibly tough animals. The shot that everybody said I needed to take was quartering away to get into the heart. Well, that's the second shot I took. And it did not penetrate the body cavity. It just slid between the skin and the ribs. So if that had been the first shot, if I hadn't read the perfect shot and seen what they recommended and studied the anatomy, I wouldn't have known that I could take that frontal shot. And after doing it on the Neil guy, I knew that it would work. The second Cape Buffalo I shot in 2009, I shot frontal. It went 30 yards and was down.
Wow. Amazing. And tell me if this is true or not, but is there not the possibility that Cape Buffalo could have just ran you over and killed you?
It's absolutely true. Mia, I started having a nightmare. Actually, let's just call it a vision. I think God showed me what was about to happen. And I woke up about 4 o'clock in the morning with this very vivid vision of a Cape Buffalo standing there looking at me, drooling. And it looked like blood was coming out of his eyes, dripping down. And he was haloed. That afternoon, when I shoot that Cape Buffalo, I shoot him frontal, looking at me. The sun is haloed behind him, and he's drooling.
Wow.
It's dripping down, and I distinctly remember Jake saying, "Shoot the blade of grass." There was a blade of grass right in front of the heart.
Mm-hmm.
I shot the blade of grass. It went through his heart.
Wow. Amazing. You are amazing. You're a phenomenal woman.
I practice. If you want to get good, you got to practice. Someone recently told me that, boy, you're just so talented. Mia, it's taken me hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of errors to be where I am. I practice. I train. I'm disciplined. I watch what I eat. I am so committed to learning, and I set goals. I work the goals. I modify it if I find I need to modify it. I seek professional opinions and from trusted people. You can't just believe everything you read or everything that you see on Facebook or on the internet. You can't believe everything. You need to source it.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
I work hard, and it's not what you do occasionally, it's what you do consistently. And it's that consistent practice that has gotten me where I am. And God's watched over me and kept me safe with some of the wild and crazy choices I've made to chase big critters and hunt and compete all over the world.
Yeah, and you've taken the Big 5, is that correct?
Yes.
With your bow.
I was the first lady to take the Big 5, and I did that in 2009. And the first was a lioness, and I shot the lioness. She came charging. I shot her at 6.5 yards. Oh, it was crazy. Now, the professional hunter told me, he said, this is how they typically behave. They typically will charge, but it'll be a mock charge. And it's not unusual at all for them to mock charge and sit and evaluate the situation before they come the rest of the way. I think she was confused because there was me and 3 professional hunters and 2 trackers and 2 cameramen. There was a whole crowd of us. And she comes charging and stops. And when she stopped, I put the arrow through her heart from the front. And the arrow buried. All I could see was the little green knock sticking out. And then she's crouching, and I shoot her 2 more times. And then she trots away, and she didn't go very far at all. We saw blood in the grass we knew that she was wounded. And 15, 20 minutes later, I'm standing over my line, and that's the first of the big five. The second of the big five was the elephant. And I really didn't think that I would be hunting the elephant as the second animal in the big five. I thought I would be hunting the elephant right at the end. And I could shoot 85 pounds, but I couldn't get the limbs to turn up on my bow any above that. And I needed to have I needed 100 foot-pounds of kinetic energy. And I had a problem with the string. A string had got cut in my bow case. And something had gotten against it when they opened it at the airport, and it had cut a string on my 90 plus pound bow. My bow would go up to 95 pounds. Mm-hmm. And I could only get it to 85 because the limb bolts were just seasoned. And we had to go to a bow shop. We went to a bow shop. The guy builds me a string, and he sets my bow. He cranks it all the way up, because once he puts it in a press and builds the string, puts a new string on it, he's able to turn it all the way up. And he puts it on the scale, and it was right at 94 pounds. And he said, well, all you need is 90. We had done the calculation with my arrow and the speed of the bow. And he said, all you need is 90 pounds. And I said, I want it more than 90, because I don't want it to be right on the edge. I want it to be more. He said, I don't know that you need to shoot it at 94 pounds. And he took a little bit off of it, and I pulled it back. And I'd been shooting 85. I just jerked it back like nothing to it. And he said, I don't want you to get hurt. He said, I'm going to turn it down, because we know that all you got to have is 90. And I said, well, let's put it on 91. So he put it on 91. I shot it several times there in the shot. And he looked at me and he said, I've never seen anyone shoot a bow that heavy, much less a woman. And so I start shooting it, and I shoot it. And, I can only shoot 4 or 5 times till I just have to take a break. But over the next 6 or 7 days, I just keep increasing the number of arrows that I can shoot. And then it's time to hunt the buffalo. And on 9/11, I end up getting charged. No, 9/11, I see my first buffalo, my first elephant. On 9/12, I get charged by an elephant, and they drop the elephant 2 steps from us.
Wow. And
it
so
was crazy.
Your PHs shot that one before you didn't have a chance to shoot that one.
If the PHs hadn't shot that elephant, I wouldn't be here talking to you, because I was at full draw on a bull elephant. The bull elephant was right at 25 yards from me. And all I needed it to do was to move the leg forward, and it was opening the heart. But we were waiting for it to turn. The wind shifted directions, hit me in the back of the head, and when I felt it on my neck, it was almost instantaneous that cow elephant came. She mock charged, and then she backed up, and she came at a full-blown charge. And at 10 yards, the 2 professional hunters shot at the same instant. You cannot hear 2 shots on the video.
Wow.
They shot at the same instant. Their shots were 4 inches apart in her brain, and she fell, and I took 2 steps and kicked her in the head.
Wow. That was close.
Now, it's so close. And Mia, the crazy thing is, right after I killed the Cape buffalo, I started having visions of an elephant charging, and it happened over and over. For 8 years, I had visions of an elephant charging, and then that day it happened.
Wow.
And then I knew that I lived when the elephant charged. 5 days later, I killed my elephant.
Oh, wow. And that was with a
It was
compound bow.
crazy. It was with a compound bow. And
Yeah.
I was shooting 91 pounds with a compound bow when I killed the elephant. And then we go back to South Africa, and I hunt Cape buffalo, and I take my second Cape buffalo with the bow. This time it was at 14 and a half yards. I shoot it frontal, and it goes 30 yards and is gone.
Wow.
And then I green hunt a rhino, and that was interesting.
And for the listeners,
Had a veterinarian with me.
will you let them
Huh?
know, for the listeners, will you let them know what green hunting is?
Green hunt is tranquilizing. I shot an arrow that had a syringe attached instead of a broadhead, and it has like a primer, like a 22 caliber primer, or it's got a primer that inject when the pressure of the syringe hitting the animal causes the primer to ignite, and it injects the medicine in the animal. And when that happens, you've got to wake the animal up within 30 minutes. So then the race is on. The rhino, I'm sorry, the rhino takes off, and we follow it. We've got a helicopter that follows it too, because it's so important to recover that rhino where we can get the information, we can get our pictures. The vet can, he checked to make sure it still had its microchip. He gave it vaccinations, took blood work, and gave it an antibiotic shot to help with the trauma that we might have caused. And I got to inject it in the ear and wake it up, and it took off and went chasing a female rhino. It was way more interested in her than it was us.
Oh, that's good.
And then I spend 8 nights hunting leopard, and I get my leopard at 16 and a half yards. It was crazy. Crazy.
It's amazing adventures. And I could probably talk to you forever about so many different things. What I might have to do is have you on the show again. And I didn't realize you've been in Colorado Springs all this time. I could have stopped and visited you there on my way back and forth. I go through there all the time. So next time I'm going to let you know.
I spent 2 or 3 days all summer up at Highland Ranch running archery camps and private lessons and doing 3D competitions up at Highland Ranch. And I ran the summer camp program here in Colorado Springs for ASR and at the Bear Creek Nature Center here in Colorado. So I'll be here for a while.
Awesome. And so if somebody wanted to take archery lessons or get started, where can they look to you, or where can they go to kind of look for stuff? Where would they look to find you?
They can, if they're close to Colorado Springs, they can find me here at the Archery School of the Rockies, and I'll give you that contact information so you can share it. Or they can just look up Archery School of the Rockies online and contact us through the website. And I've got a website, Joella Bates Archery, and there's information on classes and on contacting me. And then I've got the Joella Bates Archery shop.
Yeah, I was going to show the listeners that.
And fun stuff. That's the archery shop that's got t-shirts. Now, there's a t-shirt with a heart on it and me and longbow in the center of it. And on the back of it is my definition of success. So y'all check that out. That's an inspiring shirt.
Yeah, and so if you're watching this on YouTube, I will share a little video of that shirt and such, so you can see it there. If not, I made a short link for it, Joella,
Okay.
It's mia.limited/Joella shirts, but I'll include that
Okay.
in the show notes as well, so people can go check out
Thank
the
you.
shirts and whatnot. Only because I knew I wouldn't remember the link on
Sure.
the site.
That's the shirt.
She has a variety of shirts here and some pretty cool stuff. And I know before you headed to Argentina, you had a little fundraiser, but I am imagining this shirt shop also helps with your
It
trips
does.
and your traveling and stuff like that,
It
because
does.
I don't think a lot of people realize that when shooters are competing, they do have sponsors, but sometimes the sponsors don't cover 100% of what they're doing. So even Olympic
But
athletes need help.
our Argentina trip was 100% self-funded. So it was through the generous donations of private individuals for the most part. And Archery School of the Rockies and Coach Karen were very generous at helping me with that trip. But I make quilts. I do custom sewing, and I made a quilt that I raffled off or I sold. If people made donations, I gave them tickets on the quilt, and I've got to draw for that quilt this week. I had said that I was going to do it and got tied up with crazy life stuff right before leaving for Argentina. And then I added an additional quilt that if anybody wants a chance on it, it's a you choose the theme, and whoever wins it gets to choose the theme of the quilt, and then I will custom make it for that individual, and it can be up to a queen size quilt. But if you want me to make you something custom sewing, I'm open to those ideas.
Excellent. And so if we did want custom sewing, how do we get in touch with you for that?
You can just email me, Joella Bates at gmail.com, and tell me that you'd like me to do some sewing for you, and I can get in touch with you. I had an Etsy shop, but it just kind of gets lost in things, and I've had a lot more success either doing craft shows or just letting people know I'm available.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, it sounds like you've got some people wandering around in there. I imagine you're going to be getting ready for classes or something sometime soon. But as
Yes.
I said, I could talk to you for hours, and I'll let you know next time I head up that direction, and maybe we can meet in person and do another podcast and talk about some more stuff.
Well, I've got a deal for you. We're going to be doing some boot camps,
Okay.
and I would like to invite you to come and do one of those boot camps with us. And I think it would make a great podcast too.
Okay. Sounds good. I'll get
So
that
I'll let
information
you
from you.
know.
Well, thank you very much for giving me some of your time and for sharing so much of your story, because it is a great one. I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, that was super cool to have Joella on. I hope you all enjoyed her as much as I do. I just think she is an amazing woman and a mentor to many. You can learn so much from her. I really was hoping to share for my archery loving friends and people who are wanting to get started and looking for answers. I was going to share some archery tips, but obviously we didn't have time for that. So I'm going to look into the boot camp and see what we can share from there. That will be a ton of fun. And I'll also include notes to some of the books that she mentioned so we can have some of her motivation as well. And also to her website in case you want to order t-shirts, or a link to her email address so you can message her if you want a quilt. Until next time, have a great one.
Hey, this is Lloyd Bailey, the Armed Lutheran, host of the Armed Lutheran Radio podcast, reminding you that the podcast you're listening to is a proud member of the Self Defense Radio Network. Check out all the great content at selfdefenseradio.net.